Hi, welcome to the virtual production webinar. My name is Faraz, and I'm the marketing manager at PROLIGHTS. In this webinar, I want to talk about the range of LED screens that we have here at PROLIGHTS and how can they be a great benefit for your productions. First, let's have a look a little bit about the history of live productions and broadcast productions. So motion effects started in cinema with the Williams process, a double matte technique that allowed for the integration of the actor movements with previously shot backgrounds. After that technique developed, the first experiments with blue screen appeared. One of the first movies using that technology was Ben-Hur in 1959, featuring shots of the ocean made with chroma key effects. There are also developments not in blue screen or green screen, but also on sodium vapor process, also called yellow screen, first used in the original Mary Poppins in 1965. In simple terms, the set was lit by vapor sodium lights, and the actors filmed in front of a white screen. Then, the lights fell neatly into a chromatic notch between the various color sensitivity layers of the film, so that the odd yellow color does not register on red, green, or blue layers. We can see the color spectrum in a more narrow for the sodium vapor colors. It was also easy for the actor to wear clothes with blue colors, as they wouldn't be registered in the keyed process. This process required a prism to be placed on a camera, and unfortunately there was only one prism made for these studios, and therefore it was not a viable process through the future. So then kind of green screen was introduced, and the world moved on to that. It was a more versatile color for costumes and props. Actually, the first major production using it was Star Wars Episode 3 in 2005. And it kind of adopted the green screen over blue screen through the following productions. However, the big problem with green screen is the spill of the color onto objects. Since the screens require a lot of light on them, some of that light is often reflected back to the actors or shiny props. This poses a big problem in post-productions, as teams need to often resolve these issues digitally, and that takes a lot of time and money from these productions. So the world kind of moved on to XR stages and what we can see here in this picture, kind of the live production environment. That kind of was introduced with The Mandalorian, so the Disney film, and what is really the value of that? So one is better light reflection. So the highlights, reflections and shadows presented by the LED screens on the film are more accurate and realistic than the traditional way. The real-time image on the LED screen brings the actors also kind of a real scene, a more engaging environment to the actors coming from that LED screen, and therefore their performances are also enhanced by the fact that they can see what's around them and not just looking at a green screen or a blue screen and then introducing those animations in post-production. And finally, the shooting scene is generated by a three-dimensional LED giant screen. So that can be switched very, very quickly and reduces kind of time, costs, where the actors don't have to go on location to shoot, so everything can be done from the same studio, from the same place, and therefore the budget can be decreased by not having to move around large teams onto different countries and different sets. So what are the examples of these studios? How can you build these studios? There's a few different ways of doing that are fairly standard. So starting with kind of the right angled with three sides, or kind of a semicircular, almost like 180-degree LED screen. Then there's also kind of the traditional 135 with four sizes, so kind of left, back, right, and floor. Or kind of more creative structures. So for example, like triangular structures, as we can see here in the example. You can also distinguish kind of two methods of this. So there's one kind of the virtual production setup, as we can see here in these pictures. So these are examples of two different studios in Portugal, one by RXF and the other one by a company called Smart Choice. So these are kind of 90-degree right angle studios, often used for advertising, for virtual events, etc. There's also the U-shaped, so the 135-degree shape, as we can see here by the company Aeropogo. So in this case, you have left, back, and right screens. Often this setup is also done with a floor panel as well. And then there's the so-called extended reality stages, as you can see here. So extended reality stage setups tend to cover 180-degree or even 360-degree coverage, so often used with another flat LED screen at the top or the bottom of the camera viewpoint. This particular example is from the company XR Stage in the United States, and it's one of their 3 virtual studios with a circular setup. One of the biggest examples in this is actually the production using XR, so extended reality, with Katy Perry performance last year on American Idol finale, where they actually used this type of technology to create an animated performance that transformed the studio set scenery into a more 3-dimensional kind of environment. So how can PROLIGHTS help you in all of this? We actually manufacture several different LED screens, and we've got 3 different ranges of LED screens. Today I'm going to talk about the OmegaPix range and the DeltaPix range. So starting with the OmegaPix range. These are a series of kind of high-performance LED screens. We have different models, different variants, and they all depend on different pitch size. In this webinar, I want to talk about the OmegaPix 26p because it's the more appropriate type of LED screen for this type of production, so the virtual productions or extended reality. So what is it? So the OmegaPix 26p is a 2.4 millimeter pixel pitch indoor screen. So we've got a 2.6 millimeter pitch with SMD 2121 full black chips. And each panel is composed of 192 by 192 pixel as well. We've got a very high contrast rate, so we have a 3000 to 1 contrast rate with a refresh rate of 3840 Hz as well, and 1000 value of nit in terms of brightness. We also have a wide viewing angle, so horizontal and vertical viewing angle with a very fast scan rate. And as I said, these are kind of our indoor range LED screen. Also a quick overview on them. So we've got a durable frame with climbable steps on the back for quick access. So if you're, whether you're kind of rigging a small setup or a big setup, you can also use those steps on the back for access and to change the PSUs if needed. We've got a magnetic assembly of the LED modules. We've got curved configuration, so we can do a concave or convex configuration as well. We can also do hot swapping of the back panel with PSU and electronics, or we can use the flybar or ground stack rigging systems from these panels as well. These screens come with a NovaStar A8S receiver, and they've got 18-bit plus technology, so quite of a high bit rate on these panels, comparing especially with the competition. We've got a smart gamma correction as well. You can find more details about that on the website. We've got smart calibration tools, and all of these panels are CE MCU well approved by TUV. We also have the DeltaPix range. The reason why I want to talk about the DeltaPix range here is because with the DeltaPix range, you can actually use the panel as a floor panel as well. So this is a 4.8 millimeter LED screen, so it is a little bit wider than the OmegaPix range. However, because it's floor, the application tends to be a little bit different, so the viewing angle tends to be a bit different as well. The LED source is an SMD 1921 full black chip with a 104 by 104 pixel. Again, same high contrast rate, same refresh rates as well, which is quite important, especially when you're combining different models of LED screens with a high brightness as well. Same sort of viewing angles as we have on the OmegaPix with a high scan rate. And as I said, these are suitable for floor use, so you can actually have people on the floor and kind of participating and engaging with the images on these XR and virtual production setups. So next up, with all of these panels, you can use the LED processors that we have from NovaStar. So this is one of the examples that we have, the MCTRL 4K LED processor. So that's a 4K processor at 60 Hz with Neutrik gigabit Ethernet ports and Genlock, which is fairly important on this type of setups. So we have 10 gigabits of optical systems, and all of these processors pair with the NovaStar receiving cards, as I said before, the A8S and also the A10S receiving cards as well. We've got 10-bit color depth on these processors, ultra low latency, which is very important if you're running kind of a whole ultra high definition studio with these, and kind of all of your setup is a 4K setup, for example. So these are very ultra latency to use with all of your MIDI servers and etc., and high dynamic range as well on all of these processors. We also have a high frame rate, again, very important if you're using kind of ultra high definition cameras as well. In terms of your system diagram, how would it look like? So again, this is kind of a quick draft of what a system diagram would look like in a setup like this, so especially if you're using that curved LED screen. So you have your central LED processor that you then connect to your panels. So in this case, we've got a total of 114 panels, so 19 columns by 6 rows. What that translates into is 15 panels per output on the LED processor. And then to the LED processor, you plug up your media servers, your render nodes, your camera tracking system, etc., and everything else. Everything in your system obviously connected to your Genlock to make sure that everything follows the same time codes. We can also give you a very easy tool through the PROLIGHTS website, which is called the LED Screen Configurator. So if you are configuring a new system, you can come to our website, and what it does is you can select the exact panel that you want to use in your application. You select the number of panels, so whether it's the width, whether it's the length of that panel setup, and it does that calculation automatically all for you. So it gives you the exact number of panels that you need. It gives you the exact number of LED processors, the type of LED processor, all of the accessories, etc., can be done and can be found through the website and through this configurator option that we have for you. So in this case, we're kind of setting up a large LED screen with a 10-degree concave setup, and it gives you the exact list of the panels and all of the accessories, cables, etc. that you need in order to run that setup, along with the LED processor by Novastar. So let's talk a little bit about one of the setups made by a company in Portugal called Aeropogo. So in this setup, we can see kind of a 135 degree angle here as well that this company created, Aeropogo. So therefore, you can run kind of very engaging animations, whether you're recording an advertisement, whether you're recording a virtual event. As you can see, everything is very seamless without any gaps, without any shadows, without any breaks on the LED screen, and kind of run all of these effects, all of these engaging content through any sort of media server that you want to use. This is also an example that we have here on our back. So we're recording this streaming session with an LED screen on our back, as you can see here. We can run all sorts of animations on the back, whether it's an outdoor setup, whether it's an indoor setup, like for example this subway carriage. So there's a lot of different engagements, content that we can create depending on the type of LED screen, depending on the type of content that you have. Very easy to set up and kind of gives you an engagement look to your productions. So let's also talk a little bit about what kind of systems we can use. So here at PROLIGHTS, we are very agnostic about the media server, the tracking system, or the camera that you're using. All that we're giving you are the right tools, the right LED walls with the right technology that you need for your setup. So whatever you use afterwards, we really do not expect you to use a certain brand or a certain kind of media server. What we'll give you is a good quality kind of LED screen setup, and we'll be able to provide you all of the help that you need to create all of your configurations and everything else by reaching out to us. With our equipment as well, we have a whole range of lighting equipment, LED lighting equipment that you can use also for your setups. One of those examples is the CL Panel TWC, which are kind of the perfect tool for soft lighting that you can have on your studio. So whether you're using that soft light to illuminate and light up all of your subjects, the people presenting, whether you're using that soft light as well to kind of create scenery or create kind of more engaging lighting on top of you and creating a rig of soft lights, for example, you can use all of these by using the DMX protocol that we have. A lot of media servers nowadays also accept DMX data. So if you are kind of translating that the image content into DMX, you can use all of these panels with your productions as well. One of the big advantages of the ECL panel TWC is that you have these zone controls that you can use. So by doing all of these zone mapping or pixel mapping, you can create engaging content through lighting, and that's creating stuff like clouds, creating different effects that you can use to kind of run your video setup with your lighting setup as well. So for any more questions, feel free to reach out to us. Our website is PROLIGHTS.it. Feel free to search the OmegaPix and the DeltaPix range, and obviously also the ECL TWC range. Anything else, visit PROLIGHTS.it, and we'll make sure to provide all of the right tools for you. Thank you.